Y'all, we need to talk about how this woman's own 911 call for help ended with her being shot and killed by police. Especially because the body cam footage that just got released shows how it all went down. Right, so to start, the woman's name is Sonya Massey. And on July 6th, early in the morning, she called police because she thought someone was trying to break into her home in Springfield, Illinois. And so you had Sean Grayson, an Illinois sheriff's deputy, responding to the call along with another unnamed deputy whose body cam footage we're now seeing. Right, and so we see them knock on the door a couple of times. They take a look around outside. There's no one there, with Massey eventually coming to the door. And tellingly, one of the first things out of her mouth is, "Don't hurt me, y'all," to which Grayson says,
"Why would it hurt you? You called us."
But thing is, despite saying that, he's less than 5 minutes away from shooting her in the head. But from here, they talk out front for another minute or two, they head inside, they're asking for Massey's name, then asking for her driver's license. And she's seemingly having a little bit of trouble answering the questions, with now a key thing to keep in mind being that Massey's daughter has now confirmed that her mother was paranoid schizophrenic. And of course, as we've talked about on the show, for years we've seen people raising the issue of how encounters between police and people with mental illness too often turn deadly. But in any case, right, the situation seemed to be relatively calm. That is, until Grayson spots a pot of boiling water on the stove and he tells Massey to go turn it off, and in seconds, everything changes.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
And that's where I have to stop the video on YouTube, because that is the exact moment Grayson pulls out his gun. Right, and immediately after that, we hear Massey saying, "Okay, I'm sorry," and duck down behind the counter. But then Grayson repeatedly shouting, "Drop the fucking pot," before advancing and firing 3 shots, with one of those shots hitting Massey in the head. And that's when we hear this audio.
Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
I was on. I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, you headshot, bitch. You're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
And if Grayson's little chuckle there wasn't disturbing enough, he also at one point says,
This bitch is crazy.
Right, about the woman that he just killed. And then beyond that, we hear Grayson sort of trying to explain and justify his actions, saying this at one point.
I mean, what else do we do? I'm not taking hot boiling water to the face, and it already reached us.
But with that, beyond the fact that it's not totally clear that Massey was actually getting ready to throw boiling water at them, we even have police saying this was totally unjustified. Right? I mean, you had the use of force incident review chair for the Illinois State Police making clear in a memorandum for the department saying, by approaching Massey, Grayson placed himself within a distance where he could have been injured, and adding, this is similar to an officer stepping in front of a moving vehicle and fearing for his safety. And so with that, 1, Grayson has been fired, and 2, last week he was charged with counts of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. And while of course you had a lot of people very happy to see these charges, you also had others quick to point out that this is something of an exception. There have been a lot of cases that people would say have been similar that haven't resulted in charges, let alone convictions. With this case in particular, they notably may reflect broader issues that are being talked about with policing. Like for one, body cams, right? On one hand, the body cam footage here was very useful, but that's also only because there was this other deputy around who had his turned on. Grayson, on the other hand, wouldn't you know it, reportedly didn't have his body cam on for much of the interaction, which is an apparent violation of protocol. And then as far as other stuff about the guy, he had been hired despite 2 charges of driving under the influence. And then, of course, there's also the issue of police trying to protect their own even when they've done something wrong. And specifically with that, some are reporting that certain officers may have tried to cover up the shooting. Right? And that being according to police radio allegedly showing someone, apparently at the scene of Massey's killing, falsely claiming her wound was self-inflicted. In fact, when the dispatcher asked for clarification, a man repeated the claim. And then on top of that, Massey's father claimed he initially received conflicting information from law enforcement, saying at a news conference,
I was under the impression that a prowler had broke in and killed my baby. Never did they say that it was a deputy-involved shooting until my brother read it on the internet.
And so with all of that and the body cam footage coming out, you even had the likes of Biden being one of the people to connect this to the bigger picture, saying, Sonya's death at the hands of a police officer reminds us that all too often Black Americans face fears for their safety in ways many of the rest of us do not. With them then calling on Congress to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to, quote, increase trust and accountability in America's police force. And then with that, we actually had the family's attorney comparing Massey's killing with the murder of George Floyd, as well as relating it to the upcoming election, saying just like George Floyd was catalyst for the 2020 election, we believe this will be similarly impactful on the 2024 presidential election, especially for our Black community. There's a narration to the tragedy. It's just troubling on every level. Black women don't get the respect and consideration they deserve in America. And then on top of that, you had Massey's family placing what happened here in a longer history of violence against Black people in the US, and actually in Springfield, Illinois specifically, with them saying that she was actually a descendant of William Donegan, who was a Black man lynched by a white mob during the city's 1908 race riots, which notably was the event that led to the creation of the NAACP, which also is an organization that Massey's family actually reached out to for help, sort of bring the whole thing full circle. And just adding to this cruel twist of fate, Massey was taken to and pronounced dead at the same hospital where her ancestor died after being lynched. But with all that said, while we wait to see what happens here, I have to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts?